Hey everyone, just in case you've been sleeping under a rock, you know the story that's basically just been dominating headlines for since even before Trump was sworn in. It's definitely been dominating for the last 1 or 2 weeks. He's been making a lot of talk, a lot of big news coming out of acquiring Greenland, the different ways he might do that. Might he do it by force? Might he do it by a purchase? Some people were saying that he might offer up to $1 million for every resident, for every citizen of the island of Greenland to try to get them to vote to succeed away from Denmark and try to join the USA. Is this feasible? What are the pros? What are their cons? These things, there's been so much going on in just the last, I'd say, 1 or 2 weeks. Obviously, we know we had the Venezuela situation. We had the US military, Delta Force, Special Forces, JSOC guys. They went in there and they extracted Maduro, the sitting president of the country, brought him back to the United States in order to serve a warrant. Sandra, whatever your opinions are on that, you had us taking over Russian sanctioned flying flags, Russian ships carrying potentially some oil. There's all that stuff going on. There's Greenland. Trump's been talking about using the military to take it by force. Greenland, which is technically a part of Denmark, even though they rule themselves, they still fall under the Denmark flag. Their people are part of the EU. They are part of North America, but very close ties to the continent of Europe, which they'd like to keep it that way. They don't want to join America, supposedly, according to recent polls. But obviously, if Trump was to offer $1 million USD dollars to the people of Greenland, that might bribe them enough in order to come on over to the USA or at least vote to succeed from Denmark. That doesn't mean that they're going to get their way. Denmark would have to let them leave. We might have to offer up $1 million to every citizen of Greenland, but also a purchase price from Denmark. Supposedly there's about, one to several trillion dollars worth of natural minerals on Greenland. But we technically don't need the natural minerals. Trump is saying that he wants the island because of its locality to the Arctic area, which obviously China and Russia more importantly, has a very big say over the Arctic region because they hold so much land mass that borders the Arctic. Their country, Siberia and stuff, it is in the Arctic itself. They have bases up there, submarine access, but shipping lanes potentially, they see in the future this could be very profitable down the line to control or at least be able to intercept shipping lanes in the future. We're going to break down all this recent news that comes out. Hit the like button, subscribe, drop a comment below. What are your thoughts on this? With all this happening, where are we going? The news, there's no way to keep up with as quickly as this news is coming out. There's a whole new story coming out every single week, but you'll see that on the screen, we have our Google search pulled up of just what's going on in the island of Greenland. A lot of stuff here. How could the US take over Greenland? Is it even possible? Is this something realistically that we should consider? Trump said if they don't make a deal, he said today when he was being interviewed at the White House, that if they don't cut a deal, he's going to make something happen. Whatever that means, that's up for you to decide. But obviously, that's a threat of force. I don't think he wants to use force, doesn't want to use the military. But obviously, everybody knows the U.S. military, it is superior. There's only 57,000 people on the island of Greenland. Let's be honest, how many of them are actually armed? Even if Denmark was to use their military, would the little country of Denmark be able to defend itself versus Greenland? Highly, highly unlikely. There's a 99.999% chance that they're not going to do anything. Greenland falling under Denmark, they're a member of NATO. If we attack Greenland, would that invoke Article 5? Would all other NATO countries have to defend themselves? And even if they had to, who's actually going to show up to the party? I don't think any of them would honestly do anything, but does that make it right? They would let us take it. What are the repercussions, the flaws, if we forcibly take over Greenland? I do think there are some flaws. Would one American soldier be killed? Probably not, because I don't think NATO is going to do anything. NATO is worthless. NATO is a paper tiger. They're a complete joke. Their entire military protection is U.S. military protection, anyways. What are they going to do? They don't even have the craft, shipping, or air force to transfer a military to Greenland in order to defend it. So that's not going to happen. We would take it. It would be over. Are there 57,000 people actually going to put up a fight? No, they're not going to do anything. They might protest, they might walk around the streets with signs and shout, but they're not going to do anything. And after several weeks, that would die out. No one would care about the story, anyways. But what are the other flaws to it? Obviously, Russia having invaded their neighbor Ukraine. Everyone wanted to take the higher road, talked about how wrong that was to invade a sovereign country. There hadn't been a land war in Europe since World War II. It happened. And here we are, the USA completely fully funding the Ukrainian war. Hundreds of $1 billions have been spent, hundreds of thousands of lives have lost. No one really knows the true number because both sides are lying. And we're going to invade Greenland, an ally's own land? Does that really make any sense? What's the precedent does that set? Does that set the precedent for China to invade Taiwan? People have been saying that China is going to invade Taiwan for 2 decades now. Has not happened. I personally think it's just fear mongering. But if you're of the opinion that China really does want to, then isn't this the green light? For us to say anything to Russia and then invade Greenland would be complete hypocrisy. But obviously, that's nothing new with the US government. But nonetheless, there's flaws to that plan because it sets a precedent of a country invading a neighbor's, an ally's territory. If you are the bigger, badder country, that's a green light to me for anyone to be able to do that. As long as your trade can withstand being sanctioned by US trade, which there are countries who can do that. India, let's say Pakistan, China, Russia's been doing it for 4 years now. We were told by the supposed experts under the Biden administration that Russia would not be able to last 12 months with all those sanctions. Here we are years and years later, and the war is just going on and on. They found ways around it. The SWIFT system is not as useful as it used to be because countries like China, Russia, BRICS, they're finding ways to get around US trade using the yuan, using all different other types of currencies, sometimes even using crypto to transact money. There's ways to get around it, obviously, ways to get around the petrodollar and things like that. Nonetheless, this is a massive story. I think we are probably going to acquire Greenland. I think we're going to do it through fiscal means, through a purchase. And I really don't think that you can put a price on it. This would be a massive land grab. But if we outright are able to purchase it, even if we force Denmark into having to give it up, that'd be the end of the story. Even if this administration, Trump, completely strong arms Greenland, people might knock them in the in the European media, but they outright sold it. That's a fair and square purchase, so I don't think that it would really matter. But it's still something that you definitely want to take serious because there's all the other stuff going on. Trump's talking about raising the defense budget up to 1.5 trillion. First, he came in saying cutting spending, balancing the budget, draining the swamp. He was going to doge everything. He was going to doge the Department of Defense. Now the Department of War. None of that happened. We didn't cut spending. Actually, we raised spending. We raised the defense budget, the war budget, whatever you want to call it now. It went up to 1 trillion, 1.1 trillion. Now he wants to raise it to $1.5 trillion next season. That's a 50% increase, but yet still cut taxes. Bring in less money, spend more money. And people, people are out there, the war hawks. If you watch Fox, you're definitely a war hawk because all they do is preach war. Think back to Iraq, Afghanistan, the complete failures that those were. Syria, Libya, Egypt, overthrowing governments left and right. Never really seemed to work out for us. Definitely never worked out for the people of those countries. Only caused chaos. We spent trillions of dollars, thousands of our soldiers' lives lost, hundreds of thousands of the locals' lives lost, and we're just further in debt. We continue to bump up that defense spending. Are we in war currently right now? Was I missing something where we need to raise it to $1.5 trillion? We only bring in about 4 to 4.5 trillion in taxes, and 1.5 is going to go to just weapons. The weapons manufacturers, they're drooling right now. They definitely got their way. If anything, the defense budget, it needs to be cut. We need to find ways to balance the budget for once. If a politician is incapable of balancing the budget, why are they in office? If you worked at any type of business, if you don't balance the budget, you're out. Next guy's up. They continue to spend this money, stuff like that. But at least purchasing Greenland, you can make a case for it because there's minerals in the earth. It's strategically important. Shipping lanes, and just like the Panama Canal, trade is so important to our country's budget, exporting, importing, especially down the line. This would be something that could benefit future generations. I don't have a problem with acquiring it. Invading it, no. If we invaded it, would I get really mad about it? No, but it's a very bad look. And people might pump their chest now, but generations down the line, even just decades down the line, 10, 15 years down the line, other countries are going to start invading other countries and pointing to this as the turning point to where we said that it was okay to do that. It might work out for us right now, but it's not going to work out down the line. This could end up drawing our country into some war further down the line where we go to defend a country that was invaded by a larger country under the pretext that we opened up the green light to that. We don't want to get involved in that. It's a pretext to what could happen. We should avoid it, but outright purchase it, just like the Louisiana purchase, just like the purchase of Florida from Spain. Nothing wrong with that. We forced their hand. They needed the money. It worked out for both parties. We did buy the U.S. Virgin Islands, I think, off of Denmark also a long time ago, forced them into it, but it was an outright purchase, and it worked out for both parties in the long run. Let's not invade it, and let's not raise the defense budget. The Venezuela situation, that's a whole mess. I don't think we should be involved in any of this. Don't forget, no regime changes, no foreign wars, bring the soldiers home. He wanted to cut down bases. We're not doing that right now. Let's concentrate at home. People need to be able to buy homes and afford eggs. That is the primary goal. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, and as always, you guys have a good one.